What's up guys, thank you for watching. So in this video I wanted to show you guys a way you guys could literally crisp tofu to taste just like a crispy chicken type dish. I used organic, extra-firm, non-GMO tofu. There's a lot of GMO soy out there, so I just want you guys to always look for that non-GMO organic sticker. What you want to do is you want to cut them into individual rectangles, kind of like you see here. Tofu comes in a block and almost always in water, so the key to creating this crispy piece of tofu is to really dehydrate each piece. So what you want to do is you want to throw a paper towel down over a cutting board or a regular towel if you want to save paper, and actually put another piece of paper towel down over it, let it sit there, let that paper towel absorb the moisture that's coming off immediately. And that's the first step of this process. I let mine sit out there for about an hour before moving on to the next step. Boil salt water. I used Himalayan sea salt. Throw those pieces of tofu into a strainer, pour that salt water over the tofu. The salt's going to absorb that moisture and create a drier piece of tofu, but at the same time it'll season it. So I know this kind of seems like you're fighting fire with fire. This will definitely yield a more meat-like piece of tofu. This process is going to dehydrate each piece in a much faster and tastier fashion. After you let those pieces of tofu rest for a little bit, throw them back on a paper towel or a towel, and repeat step one. There's still going to be moisture in there, but you really want to try to get them as dry as possible. This is the most tedious part of the recipe, but obviously this is an important part of the recipe, and without doing this, you're not going to create that crispy chicken-like piece of tofu that we're going for. Keep repeating step one as much as you have to create that dry piece of tofu. As you can see here, look how much moisture came out on the probably 6th or 7th attempt for me. At that point, the best way I could describe the way it felt was like a piece of fresh mozzarella that's been dried out. I don't eat cheese anymore, but when I did, if you guys have ever had fresh mozzarella before, it kind of has that damp feeling to it. So it's inevitable. You're not going to get rid of every single morsel of moisture, but that's the type of texture you want to aim for before starting the next step. Grab some cornstarch, guys. This is the ingredient. This is what is going to make your batter. This is what's going to keep it crispy. And the process is pretty simple, guys. Literally just take your cut up tofu, throw it into a bowl with some cornstarch, and mix it well. Have your stovetop ready. I'm using a cast iron skillet on medium to high heat. Non-GMO grapeseed oil to fry in. You guys could use avocado oil or any other type of oil with a high smoking point. Throw each piece in there. We're gonna be just surface frying here. It's not a deep fry. And just maintain it, guys. Watch it. Make sure you flip it over to get both sides evenly. While you let these sit here and fry, you can take advantage of creating your sauce and also prepping any vegetables you'll be using in the recipe. We're gonna be using broccoli, so you'll see me start prepping my sauce and vegetables while this is frying. But I kept an eye on it. You wanna just make sure it's not burning, but at the same time, you want it to be nice and crispy. Keep an eye on it maybe for the next 2 or 3 minutes. You wanna get it onto a paper towel, this way it can dry out. Now to my favorite part of the recipe, the sauce. I'm using a 1/4 cup of organic low sodium vegetable stock, along with a 1/4 cup of coconut aminos, and then I didn't show you guys the low sodium organic soy sauce I'm using, but I threw that in, a 1/4 cup of that as well. Then we're gonna throw a tablespoon of sesame oil into it. This is gonna give it a nice taste. Mix that together well, guys. That's the point here. You wanna keep mixing. I actually grabbed a whisk at some point. 1.5 tablespoons of cane sugar. Throw that in there, there's the whisk. And the sugar in this sauce will allow it to caramelize once it hits heat, which in turn will cause the sauce to be very sticky and stick very well to whatever you're gonna be cooking it with. Throwing in some fresh lemon juice just to balance out the acidity and also add some tang to the sweet and saltiness of the dish. Also be careful for seeds. It's like surgery trying to get a freaking seed out of anything that's wet, but I did it. I don't know how I did that on the first try. Then grab about a 1/2 tablespoon of cornstarch, throw it into the sauce. This is gonna create a thicker and lighter sauce. Like the sugar part of our sauce, once you throw it over heat, it will create a stickiness to the sauce and really help it stick to each of the vegetables and each piece of tofu. Think about how many different pieces that we're using between the tofu and the broccoli, so you wanna make sure each piece is coated nicely. And there they are, the organic broccoli florets. Who calls them florets though? It's a head of broccoli and it's organic. Make sure you guys have organic broccoli for this dish. But for real, I love broccoli, and other than string beans, I probably wouldn't go any other way with this dish. Throw all that broccoli by itself into your cast iron skillet, and you might be wondering, what happened to the crispy tofu? It's not in there anymore. Well, yeah. About 5 minutes into that sauce making process, I took that tofu, throw it over on paper towel so it could leak out any extra oil that it was carrying, and you're gonna let it sit there until it's ready to go back into the dish. While your broccoli is cooking up, take that opportunity to cut up your aromatics. Fresh garlic, fresh green onion, and even some lemon rinds worked really well, so I suggest the same for you guys. let that cook on medium heat for about 3 to 5 minutes. Throw that into a bowl on the side. All right, this is the key. You guys gotta cook this stuff separately. Take the sauce, give it one last whisk because it's been sitting there obviously, and then throw that onto your skillet. Now this will not only cause a caramelizing effect, which will create a stickier sauce, which will be great for us, but you're basically creating a canvas of sauce. So you throw your broccoli on there, you throw that crispy tofu that's been sitting on the side on top of that, and then from underneath it, that sauce is gonna come and then just basically attack each piece of tofu, each piece of broccoli, creating an even distribution of sauce. And because the sauce has sugar and that cornstarch in it, it's gonna caramelize quicker with high heat, which really gives you no time. You gotta get that broccoli and tofu on top of that sauce as soon as you pour it in and get that thing mixed up as best as you can, as fast as you can. I also added some red pepper flakes to this recipe, but that's about it, guys. I didn't marinate any of the tofu. You don't need to marinate a tofu in order to get it to taste good. You cook it with a nice sauce, you cook it with the right aromatics, and that tofu will absorb those flavors and create a nice piece of tofu as if you did marinate it. And that's the key here, guys. Take the time to create each part of this recipe the best you can, to crisp that tofu up so it maintains it throughout the recipe, to get the broccoli in there and take it out before you throw the sauce in. If you guys cook everything separately and you add a little bit of patience and diligence to it, you're gonna create a beautiful dish with a great balance of flavor that'll be delicious for anybody trying. Not just the vegan or the vegetarian, but for the meat eater as well. That was the recipe. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys saw how I established that crispy tofu on the outside. There's a couple different ways you guys could do this, but the emphasis for this recipe was to really just keep the tofu as crispy as possible. You're gonna have to cook a couple different things separately, as you guys saw in the video, but once you get it all together and onto the dish, you're really gonna feel like you're biting into a piece of meat. You really wanna try to get that tofu as crispy as possible. This way, when you throw it back in with the sauce and the broccoli, it's not gonna become soggy. The crispiness on the outside will be maintained, and that's gonna help the dish and make it taste that much better for you and whoever you're gonna be sharing the meal with. If you guys have any questions about this recipe, please just drop me a comment below. And for another video, my name is Brett Cap. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.